advised me to use the word hyperbolic or hyperbolist. I think that the meaning is clear. So hyperbolic approach to Shi'ism in the sense that the people who exaggerated, some of the teachings of Shi'ism, especially the high position of imams and things like that. So that was the period in which such a brand of Shi'ism was born. And Faiz is the child of his time. So what would expect from Faiz is to repudiate and reject, altogether what Al-Ghazali had said, especially that Ghazali was known that he was anti-Shi'ism, anti-Rafizi. This is in itself is a very strange, a very surprising, endeavor taken by a Shi'i scholar to, undertake editing of a Sunni book, which, as I said, is absolutely unique in the whole history of Islam, Shi'i and Sunni. But when you go deep into the content of the book, you would find, and this is more surprising, that about 3/4, 70 to 75% of the book is remained intact. It means that what has been changed at the hand of Faiz is only 1/4 of the book. You might, this is quantitative history, if you like, you might say that if there is any serious, real difference between Shi'ism and Sunnism is only in 1/4 of ideas and beliefs. The rest, 3/4, is really common. And this is witnessed not by me, not by modern intellectuals, but by two prominent traditional alims. And what is that 3/4 of the book which has remained intact and had been not changed by Faiz? And that is the moral issues. So this tells you a lot about the nature and the essence of religion and religiosity. The main difference between the two books and the two authors are either in law or in theology. There, actually, you will find that they clash. They come to clash and to have some serious confrontations. But when it comes to ethical, to moral issues, a peace, is there. And you will find that both authors actually see eye to eye. And they have absolutely the same ideas, and sometimes even Faiz praises, Al-Ghazali for what he says, and even he does not try to change any of the sentences, because the style is bright. So this is the main, introduction I wanted to start my talk with. So I just gave you an idea of what Shi'ism and Sunnism have in common, and perhaps what is the main difference, the points of accord and discord. In 3/4 of things, you will see that they have got commonalities, and in 1/4, which is as I said, in theology and in law, they have got, of course, differences. Now, I should not exaggerate that 1/4 as well. I said that they have got differences in 1/4 of ideas, but there are many things which are in common. Of course, we cannot find anything pure in this world. There is no pure Shi'ism, there is no pure Sunnism, there is no pure Christianity, nothing. There is no pure masculine, there is no pure feminine. We were talking about it when we were coming to this meeting. No purity in this world. This is a material world. This is the world of contaminations, if you call it, impurities. Shi'ism is no exception. Sunnism is no exception. Islam is no exception. Everywhere you will have, ideas coming from within, and they purely belong to Islam or Shi'ism, and there are many other ideas coming from elsewhere, and seldom and hardly you can make a distinction between these two. They are traditionally and historically so intertwined and so intermingled that the distinction is virtually impossible, especially for the people who live now 1400 years after the advent of the prophethood and the rise of the Prophet of Islam. Now, traditionally, when this introduction, by the way, tells you that what we make now of Shi'ism and Sunnism is relatively new. I'm not saying that these two are new or recent reconstructions, but you should be aware that roughly 1 century after the demise of the Prophet, there was no actually talk. Nobody actually mentioned Shi'ism or Sunnism. That was not the order of the day, and these two words were not coined yet. So this is the orthodoxy, both in Shi'ism and in Sunnism, came much later. And hardly you can say, for example, that the followers of Imam Hassan or Imam Hussein were either Sunnis or Shi'is. No mention of that, and it is absolutely irrelevant and anachronistic to use the words and terms of Shi'ism and Sunnism, at least for the first century of Islamic history. I quite remember once, it's a funny story. I was in the Netherlands where they branded me as the Erasmus of Islam. I was there in order to receive my award. And before the award session, there was a conference, a panel, and I, plus Mr. Nasr Abu Zaid, who actually died a few months ago, most unfortunately, and another speaker, we were on the panel. And the speaker, who was an old former Marxist, actually, he suggested something for the reconciliation of Shi'is and Sunnis. People who look at the tradition from without, sometimes they come up with very funny ideas. And so that was one instance. So he actually suggested that it is good for Sunnis to apologize from Shi'is because of the martyrdom of Imam Hussein. And then there will be a conciliation between Shi'is and Sunnis. And Abu Zaid, who was a Sunni, he was just sitting here beside me, and he whispered into my ears, "I did not kill Hussein, and why should I apologize?" And this was exactly how he put it. "I did not kill Hussein," and he was right. There was neither Shi'ism nor Sunnism at that time, and it is an utter joke, to use the word Sunnis and Shi'is for the people who killed Hussein or the people who followed him and loved him and so on and so forth. Especially, you should know that Mu'tazilites, about whom I would like, I will, make some remarks later on. Mu'tazilites were, the brand of Muslims who were neither Shi'is nor Sunnis. And always, this is what happens, before the rigid orthodoxy. You have got a fluidity in law, in theology, in everything, before the orthodoxy arrives. And that was the case in Islamic history. You did have neither Sunnis, pure Sunnis, nor pure Shi'is. Rather, you had some Mu'tazilites who were both Shi'is and Sunnis. They accepted some ideas which are nowadays called Shiite ideas, and they then accepted some other ideas which are nowadays called Sunni ideas. So, traditionally, when Shi'is want to define Shi'ism, they put their finger of emphasis on the idea of the successorship of the Prophet. They say that what made a divide between Shi'is and Sunnis was first and foremost the difference and this disagreement over the successorship of the Prophet Muhammad. Whereas Shiites think that the successor was appointed by the Muhammad himself in his lifetime, namely Ali. Sunnis, of course, they do not think so, and they think it was left to the Ummah, to the people, to elect, a Khalif. And that was how they did it. At least historically, they behaved like that, and they tried to elect the Khalifa, Abu Bakr, and then Umar, and so on and so on. You know the history. But according to Shi'is, none of these Khalifs were the rightly guided Khalifs, and they were not, the validity was not there with their Khilafah. Rather, Ali was appointed and he was the right Khalif and his descendants. So traditionally, this is the story which is usually told about the divide between Shi'is and Sunnis. And as you know, of course, Shi'is, they always claimed, power. They were a minority, a very active minority, always claiming power and producing theories about the legitimacy of power. According to them, all non-Shiite power in the history of Islam were absolutely illegitimate. It was usurpation, and it was for the imams of Shi'ism to become the leaders and the imams of the Ummah. Shia was a minority, and they used this minority identity in order to claim, their right place in the history of Islam. It is very important that Shi'i, whether it is, their beliefs are true or not, what actually it stems from the minority identity is something that distinguishes them from other sects, and especially the majority branch of Islam, which is Sunnism. It was not only the successorship of the Prophet, but of course the descendants of the Prophet, who were also considered to be successors of the right successors of the Prophet. Some of the, or perhaps most of the characteristics and attributes of prophets and prophethood were transmitted to imams, such as the infallibility of the Prophet. The imams by Shi'is were considered to be infallible and occupying virtually the same place as the Prophet occupied, sitting virtually on the same chair that the Prophet sit. Now, these are, of course, very well known, and everybody knows about Shi'ism.